guys, I have to do this. I've been talking about doing this for a while, but we're going to talk about, you guys are going to hate me. We're going to talk about my least favorite blade shape for EDC. So let's turn this around and take a look at something that's going to make people so angry.
All right, guys, this is going to irritate some people, but we're going to talk about, like I said in the intro, my least favorite blade shape, and it's the Americanized Tonto. And I'll tell you a couple reasons why here in a minute, but I've got a few examples of them. So I do own several. This one's not mine. This one is my buddy Nico's. But they're based on a Japanese style blade shape that was used in daggers. Now, typically a Tonto was a long blade with a piercing tip that didn't really have so much of a distal taper. They were ground down to this, and they had a broad spot here, and then it would be thinner on either side of it. And you can definitely feel that. And I'm going to have to clean this when I'm done because this will rust. And I apologize, I've been having some autofocus issues. But this is, I don't mind this. And there are several knives that really closely duplicate this, like the WE 601, first and foremost. This one is much more akin to a true Tonto. As you can see, it shares that blade profile. You've got a thick spot here and everything much more akin to a true Tonto. But the Americanized Tonto is different. And I do have to admit, there are some folding knives that do a really good job with their Tontos. Cold Steel does a good job. This one is a Diskin. Matt did an amazing job on this one without a medium ridge in it. Cold Steels are always amazing. Now, the problem I have with it is I don't think it's a bad blade shape. I think it's a very limited blade shape. And I say that because it was designed to provide you a piercing point with a little bit more support, like a very rigid spine behind it, which you have. You can see very little taper to this blade until you get to the point, which it is very good for that, for a piercing thing. But the problem I had with it is the Americanized Tonto has, all of them have this secondary point. Now, Lynn Thompson did not design the Americanized Tonto, but he made it famous. Other companies have done it. This is a Les George VECP. Like I said, this is a Matt Diskin full custom, and they are striking and they're gorgeous. Now, I would never use this knife for anything. It is 100% this is a Safe Queen, one of the only ones I've ever owned. But the problem that I have with them is most of them share the same issue. Well, all of them share the same issue, really. So when they decided to give you this very, very piercing, very rigid spine and a nice piercing tip for piercing power, and then they added this. Now, Lynn Thompson always sold this as a second point. It breaks the surface tension of the skin. It gives you a much more powerful snap cut. And if you're a professional knife fighter and you do that for a living, I don't know where you would do that. That is probably something you would look for. But the problem you have with this, instead of just sweeping this up and allowing this to be a traditional grind on this, like hollow it up and bring it up and just round that over, this secondary point poses you several problems. I do like the really straight edge on these. I think it would have been better if this was just rounded over, more akin to a traditional Tonto. And the reason is this is a point that is going to accept a lot of force and a lot of pressure in the cut because it is another point. It'd be like cutting right on the tip of your knife all the time. And anybody that has used a knife, like say you take your knife out of your pocket and you're using the tip to cut around cardboard, you know what's going to happen is that tip is going to get blunted very, very quickly, much faster than the actual edge of the knife. Well, the thing with a Tonto is as you're cutting, it's always doing that. It's always doing that. Now, I do have to admit, one of my favorite knives of all time is a Tonto. And I have the same issue with that. I constantly have to be touching up and making sure that that point does not get rolled over. So I'm not saying I don't like them. I'm saying that they have a limited role. These knives would have been much better. Every one of them here on this table would have been much better if you maintained this straight, and they just rounded that entire thing over and then came down to your piercing tip. Even if you wanted this nice straighter angle, just round this over here and then just bring it down, because it very much is a problem. And you're going to wind up sharpening this more to maintain that sharp point than you are your other knives. Because I just like, that's, as you're cutting, if you're using that, yeah, this part of the blade is doing some cutting, but this is riding either on the material you're cutting or under the hard material that you've got it set on. Like if you're using a table and there's anything hard underneath it, that is going to accept all that force. If you use a knife with a much more rounded profile, and you do that same task and you're cutting, you're spreading that across a wider area, and it's just going to let that stay better longer. I do believe that these do have a place. There are people that love them. If you love them, I'm not saying don't. I like a bunch of them, to tell you the truth. There's the Anomaly by Dirk Pinkerton, designed by Dirk Pinkerton, came in, and it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I love the look of it. And like I said, I have to say, this is a very intimidating looking knife, and I like the way it looks. On this knife, it's gorgeous. But functionally, for me, I think on the list of all the blade shapes and blade designs out there, I think this is my least favorite because it presents some of those limitations. So I didn't want to make this a long video. This is probably going to be maybe 6 minutes at most. This is a great, great knife. Winston, thank you very much for sending this along as a gift. So like I said, not trying to dissuade you from purchasing them. I'm just saying, I think that functionally as an EDC knife, most of the time, something that's closer to a true Tonto will still give you that very powerful tip, extreme piercing capabilities, but resilience, but still not pose the issues that you have. As you can see, this is nice and swept. You can do it. You can get those same things out of one of these just simply by doing this, what they've done here. Just addressing that, removing that material, and not doing a full distal taper. So, guys, let's turn this around to some final thoughts to send you out about your day.
So there you go, guys. And with all that being said, I understand why people like them. They are striking. And if used in a fashion that's not like what I was describing, like I use my Norseman all the time, and it does get dull at that point. But I use it for things where I'm cutting material freehand off the top of things, because it does an amazing job. But they do have their drawbacks, as do any blade shape. It really does. I just personally think that it is my least favorite, even though this is my favorite knife. Guys, it's weird. Guys, that's it on this one. You know what to do. I didn't drop an ad, but there's sponsors down below. There's discounts built into the links for Coffee Brand Coffee and Tempered Trail. I have got a discount code that will save you 40% at Beyond EDC, 10% at Rosecraft Knives, 10% at Fair & Forged Knife Works, and 10% at KATSU Knives. Now, it is Crazy Sharp, all one word, all lowercase. Use that, save money. If you're going to buy knives, use my affiliate links that are down below. It supports the channel. Doesn't cost you anything at checkout. I also have an Amazon store that does support the channel. Link that to your browser. Use that for all your Amazon shopping. I get bonuses when I hit certain levels of amount of items shipped, and I've been hitting those lately, so definitely appreciate it. There's a public Discord down below. It says join the community. You can go there, hang out, ask me questions, things like that in the DM features. And there is a link down below where it says join on your browser. That's my membership. I do giveaways. I have exclusive content. There's a private Discord server, and I do all kinds of stuff for those guys. So there you go, guys. I love y'all. Keep it clean in the comments section. Please drop a like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.